Now Ayrshire Radio Podcast presents Ayrshire Insights with Elliot Boyce.
Welcome back to Ayrshire Insights with me, Elliot Boyce, and as promised, we've got a brilliant guest on today's show for this week's Local Legend Spotlight. This man is one of the directors of Ayrshire's largest hospitality companies. I'm delighted to welcome Lee Simpson of SimpsInns Limited. Lee, a massive thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Elliot. Thanks for having me.
So before we get started, we want to know a little bit more about you. So first of all, brunch or dinner?
Oh, I'm going to have to go brunch.
A golf day or spa day?
If you'd asked me last week, I would have said a golf day, but I performed that badly that no, it's going to have to be a nice wee day by the sauna.
And romantic getaway or a boys' trip?
Well, considering I've got a pregnant fiancée at home, I'm going to have to say romantic getaway or else I'll be shot.
Absolutely.
Tune in live every Sunday from 10 a.m. for Ayrshire Insights with Elliot Boyce.
Only on Now Ayrshire Radio.
Now Ayrshire.
So Lee, where did you grow up?
I was actually born in Aberdeen because my parents were managing a pub up there at the time, but quite quickly moved back to Irvine where they already had a house. So I was raised in Irvine all my years, went to school in Irvine, and only quite recently have moved to Troon, then to Prestwick. But other than that, through school and then university, moved away for a couple of years, and I've always been sort of back and forward and in touch with the business in between various stints.
So talking about the business, you mentioned there about your mum and dad having somewhere in Aberdeen where they were managing. How did it go from that? So I know the business, a family business, your mum and dad started the business. When did the business first start?
So as I say, my mum and dad were working for Whitbread at the time, and there was a programme back then where, you know, they were taking on a lot of couples to manage venues. So they'd done that for a fair amount of time, and I think obviously realised that they were quite good at it. So it was roughly 1996 when they took the first step to buy their own property, which was a kind of country pub in Loans just outside of Troon. And they ran that for a good few years, and it really was just a kind of locals pub and restaurant, maybe up to 15, 20 employees maximum, probably not even that. And then in 2000, they took a gamble to buy a plot of land in Irvine, just at Gales. And because my dad had been involved in Whitbread with the sort of building of various hotels, he kind of knew a bit about how that side of things worked. So they modelled the Gales originally on a similar concept to a kind of travel lodge, and it was a hotel with 40 bedrooms and a restaurant. 2 years later they realised that they didn't want to stop there, so they built on a banqueting suite and a penthouse above that. That was their first step into the sort of weddings and events side of things, which would go on to going to shape a large part of the business going forward.
So when they first bought the plot of land and the first part of Gales, the kind of travel lodge-esque was created, did it open at that point before they started developing on to making it into kind of more venue?
It was running for a good 2 years, and it was by all means a very busy restaurant, and probably done a lot of corporate business back then, and there's obviously a lot of industry in Irvine, so people coming to the area would tend to use the Gales, and the restaurant was well regarded by locals, so successful in its own right. But obviously they've seen a gap in the market for the area for an event space.
Expanded from there. What year was it they expanded into and they started development on the kind of the wedding side of things?
I'm sure it was 2002.
Yeah. Now, obviously, the Gales Hotel, somewhere that is massive for weddings. It's probably a number of listeners that will be listening in today have been married, or if they haven't been married, they'll have been to a wedding at the Gales. Amazing journey from that. Now, I know there's a number of other venues, but when did you start your experience in SimpsInns and working? Did you work at the Gales from an early age?
Yeah, so obviously, I would have been very young when the business sort of started to take shape. So I can remember many nights being left in a hotel bedroom while my mum and dad were both in doing a shift in the restaurant. But probably my first kind of gig was maybe 15, 16, and I was starting off in the function suite, setting up for events in the mornings, before later, working at the events and then working at the restaurants, then in at the bar. done a stint in housekeeping, stint in admin, office, reception, small dabble in kitchen, but that's more my brother Jack's side of the business. I'm not too good on that end. So, but apart from that, probably kind of touched every bit of the business at a fairly young age.
Can't fry an egg, but can do everything else.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, that's
So,
what
no,
the chef's for.
You mentioned your brother Jack, so obviously both of you, you're the older brother, and have been brought up kind of in an apprenticeship through living with your mum and dad in the business, but then also getting involved from an early day. I mean, I remember working in the Gales Hotel, doing the Christmas party nights when I was probably 17 as well, 16, 17, and Jack, your brother, would be out there on his knees. He would be taking the dance floor down at the end of the night. So it's not to say like you're sitting there just now, you're obviously in a management director position of the business, but you've served your apprenticeship, you've done all the tasks that you now ask your staff in order to do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, very important, especially in this type of business, that you do understand every area. And, although we're sitting in managed positions, there'll never be a time where either of us would turn around and say that we're too good to get involved in any area. So things happen in hospitality, you need to adapt and you need to get hands-on at times. So it's good to be able to jump in and help when required.
Absolutely. Now, talking about the kind of journey of SimpsInns as a whole, so you've got the Gales Hotel. At what point, what was the next step for the business? What came next?
We haven't really stopped developing probably for the last 10, 15 years at least, and there's been a lot of jumping back and forward between. So after the Gales, the next thing in sort of 2009, we knocked down the old loans from being just a sort of pub restaurant, and it was rebuilt over 3 levels as a 20-bedroom hotel, built over, from the ground floor. It looks still like it blends in.
They had the loans first. So the loans was the original building of the loans, and then it was Gales.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so loans was number 1, then it was Gales, and then they obviously redeveloped loans.
And then loans went from being just a sort of pub restaurant to a 20-bedroom hotel. A few years after that, they bought the site of the Waterside, just outside West Kilbride. And again, that was just operating as a restaurant at the time. I think previously maybe a Brewers Fayre. And from that, within a couple of years, we built on a function suite at the Waterside as well, and 23 bedrooms to turn in that into a new function space and hotel. Obviously right on the water's edge across to Arran, so a really unique venue. After that, we then purchased the site in Irvine, Uncle Winning Road, which was the old Golf Hotel, and that was another knockdown job, and that was rebuilt as C. Which is, it's had various faces since the initial conception. Downstairs, obviously, was a kind of all-day restaurant, and initially upstairs was an Italian restaurant. We've then had upstairs as an event space, as a different restaurant concept. Boozy Bunches. And yeah, it's at the minute is running as an event space, and it's a great space for events like Boozy Brunches and hen parties, christenings, funerals, birthdays, all that. And downstairs, we done a major refurbishment a couple of years back. And, with the change of trends of consumer habits and seeing a shift to daytime trade, we went for that sort of brunch route predominantly in there, which has been working really well. And still, an evening menu at night time.
Absolutely. And I have to say, being at all your venues, they're always beautiful venues, and you can always see that it's never dated, and it always, that investment to continue to thrive and move on is probably what stood you in good stead and kept you leading in the area.
Yeah, I think in this game there's so much really strong competition around about us, so you do have to keep on top of it and reinvest in the venues. Currently we're in the midst of a massive project over at the Waterside Hotel, which is a mix of new and refurbishing the old. So just this week we've launched 17 new bedrooms today. Actually, is the last couple of rooms that went live, and later in the year, hopefully by Christmas, we should have a new spa opening there, which should be to the same sort of size and standard as we've got over at the Gales. We're really building on that Sea Spa brand, and we're also doing a bit of a refurb in the restaurant, glazing in the veranda to create unparalleled views across to Arran, and the function suite as well. We're doing a nice glitzy refurb in there at the same time.
A lot of work, a lot of investment, and helping with local jobs and increasing local jobs locally. Now, we're going to talk about the big wins and the big lessons just after this.
Now streaming.
Ayrshire Insights, hosted by Elliot Boyce.
This is Now Ayrshire Radio.
So Lee, your time in the business, what would you say your kind of first big win's been?
I think in the last couple of years, probably seeing the shift from, my dad starting to share a bit more of the responsibility between myself and my brother Jack. That was always going to be a challenge, because for up until that point, it's always really been just himself and my mum that have been the key decision makers. And I think for anyone who's got their own business, it can be a real challenge for new people to come in and start sharing ideas, and you not being the final voice all the time. So that had probably taken quite a while, but I think maybe predominantly in the current project that we're doing at the waterside, which has been ongoing for just over the last maybe year and a half, I would say that was kind of my first project I really wanted to push for. So I've seen the opportunity down there for a fantastic spa location, and obviously the additional bedrooms with some of the best views you're going to get. So I think getting my dad on our side and giving that bit of confidence and working together has been probably quite a big achievement.
So we talk about families. It's obviously SimpsInns Limited. You've got your mum, your dad, you've got Jack, your brother, you've got yourself. Family. How do you find working in such a big business, but all the kind of key decision makers? I know there's other kind of operations directors and people at the top, but the family circle, how does that work well? Does it work well? Is it challenging to try and run a business of that size all as one family?
I'd definitely be lying if I said it was easy. It's got its own set of unique challenges. Just as I was saying, there's a lot of voices and a lot of different opinions, and obviously we've all got the same kind of end goal, and we all want the business to thrive, but probably just get different ways of getting there. So yeah, I would say we try to keep the business chat only at work, but that probably is also a lie. It's a industry where if you're out with a family, you tend to be out in other venues and in hospitality settings, so you end up always back with new ideas, what we could do better, what we are doing better. So it's pretty all consuming, but I think it's got a lot of benefits, and I feel really privileged that I get to work with my family, and not everyone gets that chance to spend so much time with their parents and their siblings. So I'm really lucky in that regard.
Absolutely. Now, obviously some big wins. Great to see the Waterside project coming to the point where it's at just now. You must have had some hard days though. What would you say your hardest days been?
I think probably the obvious one for anyone in hospitality, and I know some of your other guests have probably mentioned the same sort of thing, but probably just the whole navigating the COVID situation and the amount of uncertainty, and you kind of had to guess your way through some of the legislation that was put in place, and we had to make some big decisions at that point, and I'm quite proud that we never made the decision to pay off any staff. We retained our team right through the whole process, and we made some pretty tough decisions through that whole chapter on whether we should just sit in our hands and ride it out, or whether to continue growing and progress with the developments we already had underway, which at that time was the spa at the Gales, and without knowing how long that whole process was going to go on for, that could have been the wrong decision to make, but we were confident that if and when we did come out of it, that the spa was going to really complement what we had, and everyone would have noticed the sort of wellness and staycation boom that came from after COVID, and probably just the general shift in people's mentality of looking after themselves better and focusing on their health and well-being. So we kind of just got into that side of the business at the right time, and it's been a great asset to us since.
Absolutely. I think that was something that was a huge project for you, but you look at it now, it's a staple of a spa destination to go to in the full of Scotland.
Yeah, no, we've been really lucky, and we've been very grateful to have picked up some fantastic awards. not even just Scotland wide, but UK wide. We've won awards for the spa, and we're up for another couple this year as well. So it's great to get that sort of acknowledgement, and that's what's given us the confidence to push ahead with the spa at the waterside and hopefully grow that spa brand.
In the Gales, who would you say your most famous guest has ever been?
That's actually very recently. We had the second lady of America was in for a wee spa day on their fleeting visit to Scotland. So despite various other large spa organisations in the area, I would say we were quite privileged that they chose us.
Absolutely. I actually had a wee bit of an idea of that one. That's why I wanted to question you in that there. Now, so you've had your hard days, you've had some proud days as well, but also some difficult decisions and challenges in running a business. So what would you say in the hospitality sector, which comes with a unique set of challenges? It can be seasonal, you can be quiet at one point, very, very busy at the other. How do you find it is running and managing the challenges of hospitality sector, especially with such large venues all across Ayrshire?
So I think just the way that we've built the business, to have such a diverse portfolio, it can be a blessing and a curse. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that need managed and need marketed, and that can be tough in its own right to keep on top of. But on the flip side, having such a diverse range of products and services has allowed us to navigate the challenges. There will always be the case that one part of the business is flying high, whereas another maybe takes a dip, and being able to move team and resources about to navigate these ups and downs is probably one of our biggest strengths. We are probably quite unique in what we offer in terms of hotels, restaurants, coffee shops, spa, golf. We've got Ayrshire's only top tracer driving range, which has been a great success again off the back of COVID. There's a massive demand for golf facilities and the technology that goes with it, so that's been a real staple of the business as well.
Really ticking all the boxes and making sure that you're bringing all of that to a high quality right here in Irvine. Now, talking about challenges, hospitality, when I mention challenges, is a unique set of challenges as well, where the fact that you've got so much team, the cost of having team, national minimum wages and the challenges with that, but also now the added challenge of employers' national insurance. Whilst that and the natural cost of everything going up, overheads, energy, all the things that they attribute to it, but having a fair price for the consumer, how do you find balance in that? And is there anything you think that could assist you in making that easier?
Yeah, no, you're right in saying that is probably one of the most challenging things currently is that costs in every area of the business are grown. You've mentioned national minimum wage costs, which had a fairly significant jump this year, along with the employer's national insurance contribution. But they are just two parts of a massive pool of different costs. I would say the biggest thing that we would like for all businesses is for the public to maybe kind of just understand a bit better that we're not putting our prices up for any other reason than just to combat the costs that are put on us. If your heating and electricity bills go up at home, then you've got to understand that that's what's happening to businesses as well. So we are probably at the sharp end of the stick in our field that hospitality can be a bit of a luxury, and the end consumer can choose whether they go out or not, or how often they go out or not. Whereas your heat and electricity, you have to pay that. Your food shop goes up, you have to pay that, and you just accept it. Whereas I think there can be a bit of a ceiling for us in terms of where we can put our prices to try and combat these costs.
Absolutely. Now, you talk that the cost of living was clearly an impact, and people maybe assessing, and there's necessities and there's luxuries and having to have that calculation. But I've spoken to other hospitality owners, and the VAT rate here in the UK for hospitality venues is up there with the highest in Europe. Do you know, take yourself back to COVID. You talk COVID at the end of it. There was a reduction in VAT rate. Do you think that would be a massive impact and assistance to you to be able to drive the price down for the consumer? Because you're talking, if you're down at the 5%, that's a 15% difference. on the end product price that's fundamentally getting hit straight by the consumer.
Yeah, of course. Any sort of reduction in VAT, or any cost for that matter, that are put onto business, that's just one tax we pay. There's plenty of other taxes that are piled on that the customer doesn't even see. So that all has to be taken into account with our pricing structure, and that's talking VAT alone, that's 20 pence out every pound. It's just gone. So absolutely, if there was anything that could be done on that, and I know that there is a big push out there, particularly in hospitality, for that to be looked at. It would be a massive benefit in helping drive footfall and just get businesses back booming.
And the thing being, and just to explain this to the listener, VAT isn't something that impacts your pocket. So the VAT element, when you've got VAT on sales of goods, and i.e. somebody comes in, you've got the net total at the bottom, and then you've got the VAT rate. The VAT there is going straight to the government, and that's a point from that. So if that VAT rate was to come down, your net price stays the same, which means your running costs and everything associated is staying the same. But that VAT rate coming down is a direct impact, not to SimpsInns apart from the additional footfall hopefully, but it's actually impacting it and making the price for the consumer that's coming in for their meal significantly better.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is case studies out there of other countries in Europe and further afield where having these sort of reduced rates does prove to drive more footfall and more business.
Absolutely, and it gets people out and about. It makes people be able to go and see each other. Have you seen a change in customer dynamics then over the years? I'm talking to other people. We speak about the late night venues. I mean, I see it as well. And people don't tend to drink as late. You might find people come for something to eat. They might have a drink or two, but then people are going back to their homes and drinking rather than going out and about. Is that something you're seeing? Is venues not open maybe as late, apart from when you've got events on, as they used to be?
Yeah, definitely. I think I said earlier that we certainly noticed a shift for what the consumer wants. There's a much higher demand than previously for daytime dining, coffee shops, and certainly alcohol seems to be less of a focus, particularly for the younger generation coming through. And you're right, people aren't tending to eat as late, and they're not maybe staying on and having drinks after the meal, which would have been the case before. So, that we have adapted quite significantly to that. And, other than the accommodation side, a large chunk of our business now would be classed as day trade with the spa and the golf and leisure membership. So yeah, no, it's definitely changed.
This is the Ayrshire Insights podcast with Elliot Boyce.
Now it's time to talk community charity and Ayrshire Pride, but before we do that, the listeners are normally in touch and they'll let us know their weekly bargain, what they've managed to pick up for a tenner or less. So Lee, the question to you, what's your bargain of the week that you've got for a tenner or less?
I think I might have mentioned earlier that I've got a pregnant fiancée at home, so I tend to find myself in the doghouse recently for, I don't even really know what. So I actually did get a wee find of a bunch of flowers for under the tenner mark this week that kind of saved me for whatever I had done at that point in time.
So just to make the point, this is the radio. It's live radio and it's out there. So when you go home today, I hope you've got another stop by anywhere else. Hope some other bargains on the way home for some flowers if your good lady's listening in.
Yeah, I'll be back in the doghouse.
Back in the doghouse. So Lee, back to you. Why support local causes like us here at Now Ayrshire Radio?
Well, SimpsInns is, through and through an Ayrshire business, and although we have grown substantially since it was first founded, the mission has always been to keep it within Ayrshire. So we reinvest in our properties. We see Ayrshire as a fantastic place to live and work, and we don't have any plans to venture out with Ayrshire. So in turn, we want to make sure that Ayrshire and the areas around our businesses thrive. And we obviously employ a lot of people from the local area and have done for the last 20 plus years. So it's great when you can actually see the impact that you make. We're inundated day in, day out with charity requests and raffle donations, and we try as much as possible to help them all, but we do tend to kind of keep them to local area as much as possible.
Do you feel that you guys are self-sufficient? Do you get support from kind of other organisations round about you?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely people out there in various organisations that are really keen for business to flourish, because they see the long-term wins for not just the business but for the area. There's obviously other organisations and people out there that could maybe do a bit more for business and get behind and really help, push Ayrshire as a top tourism destination. And there can be a lot of red tape in this business that sometimes you just wish people were more in your corner rather than trying to knock you down at every post.
So we do regularly get councils on, and I've had the likes of the Chief Executive of East Ayrshire Council. We've been speaking to people from South Ayrshire Council, and on top of that we're doing some work with North Ayrshire Council as well, focusing on the business gateway, the support that they've got for businesses. A lot of support that you seem to find as well is on, like, say, it could be technology type grants and things like that. Is there support directly for hospitality from like a kind of grant perspective or anything to try and assist you guys?
Yeah, we do have a couple of contacts with North Ayrshire who have been extremely helpful and have reached out when new grant fundings became available, or if there's been new technologies that came up that they know would apply to our business. So we have, through digital upgrade grants, been able to improve quite a few of our IT systems over the last couple of years. A lot of that has helped us kind of move more into the online market. So, we've now got probably 90% of our business bookable online, that take it from hotel rooms, restaurants, spa bookings, golf lessons. So that's really helping us to reach a wider market and to, make it easier for the consumer to book what they want. Certainly out of office hours where people tend to be kind of scrolling on the internet. Certainly having a good online presence and being a easy bookable website that that really has helped.
Have you touched AI?
I mean, that's maybe more of a question for a marketing team. I know that they have probably dabbled in a bit of the AI side, but I have heard a few things coming through that haven't seen it in full action yet, but there's certainly some things that I can see will help us going forward.
Especially, analytics, working with you. I know that there's the 5G Centre, the Digital Innovation Centre in Irvine, which is focused heavily on the 5G. There was grants available for 5G for businesses in different sectors, but there is going to be a massive focus towards AI and the power of AI, and I think it will be really interesting for you guys, especially with the booking process, whether it's even a customer service process. Is there something there that can help? It'll be interesting to see how that develops.
Yeah, I have seen some things, that are, a lot of it centred around making the customer's journey easier and more tailored to them. So obviously, it can track their booking habits and what sort of things they're interested in, and make that whole journey of getting from A to B a lot easier.
So one of the big taglines that we've got in here is that local feeling. What would you say that local feeling means to you?
That local feeling, I would say, being in hospitality, you get a lot of repeat guests, a lot of regulars who come in, day out. We've had, team that have been with us for 20 plus years that have been loyal and have been with us through all stages, and we've got some key supporters who are always there to sort of back us up and cheer us on, and hope that we do succeed. So, and I think there's a lot of that just in Ayrshire. I think there is a pride from being from Ayrshire. We've got some great assets in this part of the country. And sometimes I don't think that's shouted about enough, but we are certainly avid supporters of Ayrshire, and certainly when we are away promoting ourselves at different trade shows up and down the country, we're as much promoting Ayrshire as we are promoting the SimpsInns.
Looking at the golf, looking at the views, looking at the what you can get here, it's such a, if you look at your marketing as well, it does focus on the landscape. It does focus on the landscape, the Ayrshire landscape.
Yeah, no, we've got so much to offer in Ayrshire.
So we're going to finish strong with a fun round and find out what's next for Lee Simpson of SimpsInns just after this.
Tune in live every Sunday from 10 a.m. for Ayrshire Insights with Elliot Boyce.
Only on Now Ayrshire Radio.
Now Ayrshire. Ayrshire.
And it's now time for 5 fast ones. So Lee, I don't want you to think about it. Just shout out the first answer that comes to your head. So it comes into your head. Are you ready to play 5 fast ones?
Yep, let's go.
Right, favourite takeaway?
Chinese.
A song that always lifts your mood?
Dreams, Fleetwood Mac.
Best thing about Ayrshire?
The coastline.
Weirdest moment at work?
Staff party when someone dressed up as me.
Who plays you in a movie of your life?
Oh, need to be somebody buff and Scottish. Let's go, Gerard Butler.
There we go. Thanks for playing 5 fast ones. We'll be asking our guests every week to get involved. So Lee, somebody dressed up as you at a staff party?
They sure did. I didn't ever think I'd see the day.
When was that?
It was a good few years ago now, but not the most exciting outfit, I don't think.
There we go. Right, okay, so Lee, before we finish up, what's next for you and SimpsInns?
So personally, just about to have my first child. Well, I'm not. My fiancée is.
Congratulations.
So that's all exciting. And engaged to get married at the waterside as well. So that's the personal side.
You looking for a DJ?
Well, I could be on the lookout, yep. And business-wise, we've obviously still got a bit of work to finish off at the waterside. And after that, we have a very long list of other potential projects we'd like to get to. It's just kind of prioritising, finding the right time and, picking out what ones are going to give the best returns.
Absolutely. What's one thing you would say you hope for Ayrshire's future?
I would like to see Ayrshire be regarded as more of a tourist destination. I think the East Coast and up north and certainly over in Edinburgh get the lion's share and all we ever hear, particularly at the golf tourism weeks that we go to, is that these places are kind of oversaturated, and we would love for some of that overspill to reach Ayrshire, and then going forward for Ayrshire to be a first choice as opposed to the backup.
I hope and you mentioned that. I mean, people take politics out of it. Like Trump's visit to here, it was national news. I mean, I live in Moncton. I could see the car drive by. I could see the entourage go by from my house. And you go, right, okay. And not just that, I turned around and looked at Sky News and it was on it. And you could see it live. So as much as taking politics and everything out to one side, those kind of visits hopefully will show Ayrshire. I mean, show Ayrshire in good light. You look at Turnberry and you look at, I think it was getting documented live in Sky. We've had recently the Opens events in Troon. So hopefully all of that does show to people what Ayrshire's got, because it's a beautiful place, some of the best golf courses, and that's been said by many, and some of the best hospitality venues as well.
Yeah, thank you.
So final shout outs and thanks. Who would you like to say thanks to and say hello to before we finish off here today?
Just a big thanks really to all of the team at SimpsInns. As I've said, we've got some really long-standing, loyal members of the team, both at the senior level and within the venues. And as cheesy as it is, we certainly wouldn't be where we are without the hard work of all these people. So, yeah, big thank you to everyone at SimpsInns.
Lee, massive thanks for coming on today.
Thank you.
This is the Ayrshire Insights podcast.
Never miss an episode. Hit subscribe now.